I think I became obsessed with Coriolanus, playing it on stage about 10, 11 years ago. I like it's a very provocative piece with a very sort of confrontational tone to it, and I like that. I think I liked that way that Shakespeare was confronting the audience, not just with Coriolanus, but with the whole, all the questions of loyalty, political intrigue, and the idea that you have this man with this sort of almost a sort of obscene integrity. I think the play challenges audiences' sense of where their loyalties should lie, and I also think it's a play that's continually relevant always. I mean, now particularly people are saying with various uprisings and economic uncertainty around the world, which is the background to the play, but I think it's always a play that provokes an audience.
Rafe got in touch with me and he said he was planning to do this film of Coriolanus, and I immediately thought of togas and stuff, and I thought, okay, I've done those kind of films. Well, not Coriolanus, not Shakespeare, but and then he had a totally different take on it. And then I read John's script, and it was an amazing adaptation. I mean, really, truly amazing adaptation. And then also because of the location, because we set it in Belgrade, and the fact that there was a sort of worldliness, it had its own world. It was just a great script and a great adaptation and a great vision for the film, and I thought, I want to be on board.
When Rafe and I were developing the script, we were very careful to preserve the language. And we were luxurious about the use of language, because in modern cinema, as you know, dialogue is not the most treasured component necessarily. So we fought battles with each other, with Shakespeare, with the text, to try to preserve as much poetry as we possibly could. And we weren't afraid, if you've seen the film, from the grand gesture, from the big speech, because that is Shakespeare.
We come from a very, Shakespeare's sort of mother's milk, and it has both its disadvantages and advantages. Actually, the verse structure was always adhered to. I mean, we didn't never tamper with the verse, and quite a lot of it is in prose and moves from verse to prose. But in a sense, what was revealing, and particularly revealing in rehearsals, was just, and actually Rafe and Vanessa, particularly Vanessa, had a kind of way, she has this extraordinary idiosyncratic way of dealing with the language. And it struck me as that's the way to do it. And you have to throw off all the traditions of how Shakespeare is done. And actually, as Rafe quoted Michael Bryant, Michael had that great simplicity. And actually, I think a lot more Shakespeare could be done like that. I think we kind of sometimes overdress Shakespeare. And what was nice about doing it, and also through what John's adaptation did, it was able to distill and really get to the essence of Shakespeare, because it's great language. And there's nothing wrong. I mean, I think a lot of films suffer these days for actually not having good enough language in them. And that was what was so good about the movie.
If you think about the actors who quite a few actors have played in front of the camera and directed. It's not new at all. And I think it stems even from, in fact, the theatre, where certainly in the 19th century and earlier, actor managers would play leading roles and would bring around them, and they would decide a season. They'd bring their cast and produce. So, I think it's a sort, it's not. It's been done before.
At every point, what our job was with the text was to find modern metaphors for everything. So swords didn't have to be swords, and messengers didn't have to be messengers. And since we were dealing in the our currency was modern media, because so much of the play has to do with the presentation of self to the public, the political world, as Menenius exists in a world that is half very private when he goes to see Volumnia and half very public when he's appearing at the Senate or appearing on TV when we first see him. And we wanted all the characters to have that sort of response to the media. So there was about a 5-minute discussion about should we try to create some messenger, and we said no, we should just have it be as it would be if I were turning on the TV, and there was a revolution, which indeed there was while we were working.
Vanessa was my very first dream choice to play Volumnia. I've been a fan and admirer. She always moves me hugely, Vanessa, whenever I see her. So even 2.5 years before we shot the film, and John had delivered first draft, I think she was the first phone call I ever made to any cast member was to Vanessa, who I knew a little bit, so I made a personal call and said, would you consider this? And she said yes, and loved it. And then I think she was incredibly patient with the process of getting the film financed. I think there was a moment when it must have appeared to her that it would never happen. But it was amazing. And I remember feeling very emotional when she finally arrived in Belgrade and we rehearsed scenes, because I knew the scenes inside out. I'd played them before, and so I knew her words and my words. But when she came and she started, and Brian was there in rehearsal, it was extraordinary. Well, it was nervy and adrenalized to begin with. So, but there were moments when it was. I hesitate to use the word fun, but exhilarating. It was exhilarating.